Why, good morning everybody. Thanks for clicking on this video and joining in on a continuing conversation. And if you're watching this in the morning, I hope your coffee's still hot. And if you're watching this in the evening, sip on your whiskey slowly. Yes, I'm going to be visiting specific gravities again, just simply because I made some black powder out of cherry wood, and according to cherry wood has a specific gravity of 0.50. So let me put this into the context, okay? And why, for me in particular, specific gravity is important, okay? Now, I've been building bows for a number of years, and knowing the specific gravity of woods is going to dictate whether you make a good bow. This is an English longbow. Whether you make a good bow, a somewhat adequate bow, or a bow that's destined to fail. Now, this particular bow is a three-piece composite. It's hickory for the backing, purple heart for the core, and hickory for the belly. And one of the reasons why you need to know the specific gravities of these woods is that if the specific gravity, say, of the heartwood, purple heart, was much, much greater, now there's still a working set of numbers that you can work within, okay? But if the purple heart was so much stronger than the backing, the hickory backing, then the bow would come apart. But there again, a lot of it depends on knowing your species of hickory, because within the hickory family, not all hickory trees are equal in specific gravity. Like your pignut hickory is the strongest of the hickories. And for the most part, hickory has a specific gravity of 0.72, 0.73. Something like that. And one of the reasons why I like using hickory as a backing, because you can have some grain violation without the bow coming apart. But for the purpose of this video, when I talk about specific gravities, I'm talking about specific gravity that's measured with a moisture content of 9%. Now, if you go on Google and type in specific gravities of wood, you're going to get a list of multiple charts from different companies. And they're not all going to read the same specific gravity. Okay? For instance, I just recently did this to reconfirm something regarding the cherry. Black cherry or American cherry, it's the same wood. And if you dry it to a 12% moisture content, you're going to get something that varies from, let me see, I wrote it down, that varies from 0.47 to 0.54. That's with a 12% moisture content. So even with that 12% moisture content, the specific gravities do vary. Now, because I have the scale based on 9% moisture content is telling me that cherry is 0.50. So it's a fairly light wood. But all in all, if moisture content wasn't such a big deal, then continue to ask yourself, why does Swiss continuously use buckthorn alder? Well, the simple answer is that buckthorn alder has the most consistent burn rate. Compared to what? I've tried looking for the past several days to see how Swiss achieves their terminology, the most consistent burn rate. And something like the most consistent isn't an absolute, is it? It's just simply not. In my mind, that's just a little play on words. Yes, it may have a very consistent burn rate compared to what? That's why Swiss chooses to age their buckthorn alder for 3 years. And once again, being a bowyer, I understand aging woods and things like that, okay? Let me get this out of the way here real quick. That's why when it comes to some woods, there's not a very consistent chart to give you a consistent number. Such as, like, you know, junipers, they say low to medium. Red cedar, they know is 0.48. European alder, we've already discussed this, 0.44. Buckthorn alder is 0.49. That's what Swiss is going for when you talk about specific gravities, 0.49, okay, 0.50, right there. Aspen, 0.45. Alaskan cedar, which is a yellow cedar, has a specific gravity of 0.47. So I would expect that yellow cedar would burn very, very well. Now, speaking from experience, being a bow builder, years and years and years ago, I read an article in Archery Magazine, Primitive Archer, that says go to your hardware store, buy some fencing slats, pick the ones that have the straightest grain, and you can cut them down and you can make arrow shafts out of it. Even though it's a yellow cedar, it's more than adequate enough with a specific gravity of 0.47 to be strong enough to make arrows, which is what I did. So I had a lot of yellow cedar that I had collected over the years in making cedar shaft arrows. And when I first started making black powder, that's what I used. And in fact, I think I even mentioned in one of the videos several years ago that I had a container similar to this with yellow cedar and another one with oak. And I get rid of all the oak, because even feeling the weight between the two containers, I could tell that the oak was going to burn poorly because it's too heavy. Okay, so, you know, yellow cedar would make a good fast burning gunpowder. Okay, and things like that. Again, western juniper at a 12% moisture content comes in at 0.44, but if you dry that even lower, then you can get your, I don't have one right here, but you can get your junipers to 0.48, which pushes you right to that 0.50, that happy medium as far as, I don't know, maybe Swiss is concerned. So, when you go to these charts and you get a varying number for your specific gravity, how could one figure out what they have? Well, I'm going to show you once again. So I'm going to get repositioned. I'm going to line up my jars, and then you can judge for yourself what specific gravity these type of charcoals are. And if you think that that specific gravity is going to change just because you charcoaled something, you would be mistaken. Okay, the jar on the far left is the control. That's willow. We know has a specific gravity of 0.39 with a 9% moisture content. The next jar moving to the right is the cherry, and according to the Bowyer's Bible, at 9% moisture content, that's supposed to be 0.50, but the varying charts online put black cherry, American cherry at 0.47 to 0.54. Then the next gunpowder moving to the right will be the alder, and discovered that was a 0.37. And that, I don't recall right off the top of my head what the moisture content was. Then the next charcoal moving to the right is the aspen at a 0.45. Okay, now since we know that 0.50 is heavier than 0.45, then we would expect the aspen to occupy more volume in the jar, and you can see that. So my best guess is for the cherry, and since I have been aging this for maybe 15 years, because I've been making flutes with it, but this is just some excess that I've had just laying around. I was able to make some charcoal out of it. So my best guess would be that that's right at about 0.50. Now, you take these two out of the way and put the alder and the willow together. And the alder is actually a little heavier than the 0.37 that the information was to lead us to believe. This is 0.39. This is supposed to be 0.37, so you would expect at 0.37 it would occupy more of the jar, but it does not. So I would say, just a best educated guess, that alder would be right around 0.40, maybe 0.42, 0.43. That's what I would expect. But when you put the alder next to the aspen at 0.45 specific gravity, there's a clear difference there. Clear difference. So, with that being said, all of these charcoals are going to make good gunpowder. Well, I shouldn't say good, usable gunpowder. This is going to have a faster burning rate because it's lighter than this. And this is going to have, the alder is going to have a faster burning rate than the aspen. But ultimately, which one of these is going to produce a cleaner burning gunpowder? And I'm not going to talk about what burns most consistent because I don't have a high-speed camera. And for me, that's just an irrelevant choice of words. They really don't mean anything to me when, you know, Swiss uses, they have the most consistent, you know, burning rate. Compared to what? When you have something coming out of your gun at 1800 feet per second and you're using buckthorn alder and you have the same amount of feet per second coming out of a gunpowder you made out of aspen, you're just as dead. So to me, those things really don't mean anything. To me, this means more than reading something like consistent burning rate. But with all of that being said, I am curious as to how the cherry will react in my guns and what kind of numbers I can achieve. So let's go outside and see. So wanting to remain consistent, here's 30 grains of the homemade gunpowder with cherry as the charcoal. You guys decide for yourself if that went up fast enough. Let me give you a close-up of the board. So there's the close-up of the board. Pretty clean. Hardly any smoky residue. And once again, the little pieces of stuff that left behind, the KNO3 and or that little bit of charcoal, which is, you're going to get this left behind no matter what you do. You're going to get some charcoal left behind because you're using charcoal as the fuel source. But all in all, that's pretty clean. So what would a test like this be if I didn't have something to compare it with? Stay tuned. So for comparison, got 30 grains of that Swiss gunpowder that I remilled. And you can go back in this channel, you can see what those results were and how and why I decided to do that with the Swiss gunpowder. But let's do a burn test. Well, that went up pretty quick, but let me get you close up. So once again, there's your smoky residue. Now for those that seem to have thought that when I tested this out of my flintlock the last time, that the smoky residue was from the shoots in 4F, here's a burn test on a clean board, and there's your smoky residue. It wasn't the Schützen, it was the Swiss. Now I'll tell you, it's fairly clean per se, but that smoky residue, I'm going to put some on my finger. Well, look at what's left behind. You're going to get that left behind because you're dealing with charcoal for your source of fuel. The smoke, I've got a couple of large pieces of KNO3 right here, but that's negligible. But that's what's left behind in your gun barrel after shooting Swiss, along with this smoky residue. And I just have to make an observation here. I went back and I looked at the analytics after I did that test with Swiss versus Swiss. And guess what? As expected, I got a lot of thumbs down. Isn't it interesting? So did I get the thumbs down because I said this dirtiness, the smoky residue, was unacceptable? Or did I get the thumbs down because now people are thinking in different terms? And they don't like thinking in different terms when it comes to gunpowders. You guys decide for yourself. I'm going to go get my shooting range set up, and we're going to test this cherry gunpowder and see what kind of numbers it can produce. $2,083. I don't think I hit the target. Let me go look. Hit the bullseye. Here's that patch. It's pretty clean. After I get you 5 numbers, I'll tell you what I'm shooting. $2,032. Obviously, I missed the bullseye a little bit, but 2,032. $19.58. $19.02, and I actually flinched on that one. Okay, I recovered that patch. It's not all that dirty. In fact, if I wanted to suck on that again, I could probably reuse it. LOL. It's not that bad, guys. I know I'm dropping quite a bit in feet per second right now, but it is what it is. Let me get reloaded and see if I can get your 5th number, and then I'll tell you what this one was. And I have been moving the chronograph into the shade in between marking off the target, finding the patch, and reloading the gun. I'll be right back at you. So this next shot is for you, Gun Drone, who asked the question, does having that much rod stick out the front of my barrel really change the point of impact? I'll pull the target after this and I'll show you all 5 shots with the rod in the gun. My next testing of the gunpowder, I will make a conscious effort to leave the ramrod off the gun. All right, let me get this last shot downrange. I pulled it. I'm going to retake that shot just simply because I pulled it real bad. When I pull the target, you'll see. But here's that patch. That's pretty damn clean, guys. That is really clean. I'm going to get reloaded and see if I can't get you a better number than that 1600, because I don't trust that number. $42.01. Let me go mark that off and think about what I want to do with these numbers. So I went ahead and got a newer battery. Don't really think that's the issue. It's 10 o'clock here in the morning and it's getting pretty warm. I'm about ready to shed this flannel shirt. But I just want to show something. You can count them. I shot 6 shots. Compare that to what I did the last time with Swiss and when I complained about my lock being overly dirty, how unacceptable all that smoky residue was. Now before I show you the lock, I want to let you know I am shooting 4F Elephant. I went ahead and put that Schutzen back into the can and swapped out to my Elephant. There's the lock. That's a lot more acceptable, and I had not had to vent pick this yet. Huge difference, gentlemen. Huge difference. Okay, set this aside and I'll show you the target. This is how the target's set. I called this one. That one I called. So you can see other 5 shots are right here. Every one of those shots is a kill shot. If I was shooting at a heart lung area of a deer, elk, bear, gazelle, bullfrog, it'd be dead. Now for you, gun drone, if you can take a good look at that, the next shots are going to be shot, and I'm going to leave the Ramrod out of the gun. And I'm going to just tell you right now, personally, I don't think that that's a fair challenge, whether I'm holding it offhand like this or holding it on the table. There's always micro movements. So with that being said, other than this shot I called, that could be what I would call at least micro movements. So let's see if I can duplicate this or if it actually gets worse. I'm going to get reset up here. And oh, you guys might want to know, that was my cherry gunpowder. That was cherry with a specific gravity. Again, with a moisture content of 9%, it should be 0.50. Okay, I showed you the patches that I could recover. Very clean burning. Now you should also know that this is 80 grains by weight. And it is a settled weight. Okay, but whether it's loose or settled, I think we can all agree it's pretty damn clean burning. So I'm going to go ahead and run a patch, a wet patch down through the barrel, clean it out, get it dried out, get reset up, give my chronograph a chance to cool off and see if I can't get you guys some better numbers. And then I'll let you know at the end of the next round what gunpowder I'm testing. $17.77. Well, I recovered that patch. It's a little more shredded than the other ones. Get you a good view here. It's pretty shredded, but it's pretty clean as far as I'm concerned. But let me get reloaded and I'll get you another number if I can. $17.42. Let me go mark shot number 2 off. I kind of rushed that one. Let me go get your number. $17.44. Not sure what's going to happen here. I have to keep my chronograph at a real funky angle to keep the shadow off of that back sensor. So let's see what happens. $17.14. So here's that patch. Like the others, it's pretty shredded, but look how clean that is. That's pretty damn clean, guys, for white or red alder. I'm impressed with how clean that is. All right, I got one more shot to take. Let's see what we get. $17.73. All right, before I show you the target close up, I just want to reiterate a point. Here's my lock. What is that, 11 shots? Have not had to vent pick this at all. What a huge difference. That smoky residue, that smoky fouling leaves with Swiss. Take a look at that, guys. I wasn't just blowing smoke up your smoke poles when I made that comment about Swiss is unacceptable compared to, and remember, this is elephant I'm using in the touch pan. All right, here's the target. Right there, guys. Had one, I called that one. So for you, gun drone, I'm not ready to accept that that's the difference between leaving my ramrod in and having that little bit stick out. I'm going to load up a couple more shots. I replaced the targets and put that original target back up. Just simply because if you were paying attention to the numbers of this alder, either white or red, is this attributed to me being a better aimer with alder, or is that because there's more of a consistent burn rate even with the red and white alder? I'm going to get loaded up again, fire a couple more shots with the cherry, and see if I can't do something like this with the cherry. Although, like I stated, if I was shooting at a deer, elk, bear, even a bullfrog, it'd have been dead. All right, let me get loaded up and I'll get right back at you. Kind of want to show you guys a little something here. I've got a round ball started. Okay, I think I'm on the bottom, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the rod right here. And then I'm going to show you why I slam my ramrod onto the powder. Okay, now you see it starting to bounce up. That tells me I'm fully seated with my powder charge. I hope you guys can see those two pencil marks. That's how much more tighter, or how I was able to get the ball to be firmly seated on top of that powder charge. Can you guys see those two pencil marks? Huge difference. So, what does that do when you're shooting at a mountain man rendezvous? What does that do when you're shooting across a chronograph? Make a world of difference, couldn't it, guys? That's why I slam my ramrod on top of that powder charge, to get it firmly seated. All right, gonna take these last two shots and we'll see what I can do with it. $17.13. I pulled it. Let's see where it went. Before I walk up there, the chronograph reads 17:24. 1689. Let me go up and get the target. Okay, gun drone. There's shot 7 and number 8. 7 and 8. Everything right here is with that ramrod in the gun, including the oops. And with the ram out of the gun, everything's right here, including the oops. Now if you take this target and overlay it, other than these 2 shots right here, it's not that much of a difference. If you ever watch Forged in Fire, your weapon will kill. In both instances, without or with the ramrod. I got to admit, that's a lot better, but, is that the difference between the buckthorn alder, or excuse me, the alder, the white or red alder, having more consistent burn rates as opposed to the cherry? That I don't know, because I don't have a high-speed camera to make those adjustments. But either way, I think what I should do is give the gun a thorough cleaning, come back out here at some point, and take 2 shots and see if those first 2 shots will get above 2,000. If they do, then that tells me when it comes to the cherry, I can reliably rely on the first 2 shots being close to consistent, and then from there on out, it just drops down. So maybe with the cherry requires a clean gun. I don't know, cleaning in between shots, I'm never going to do that. Because with the amount of shots I took right here, and bearing in mind the last 2 shots was with the dirty gun. That was with, yeah, right here, 7 and 8, that was with the dirty gun. I'm pleased with that. So anyhow, friends, I don't think I need to sit down and crunch any numbers, because I think you can see, at least with the cherry, from shot number 1 to the final shot, there's a huge difference in the feet per second, what the spread is, as opposed to that white or red alder, whatever that is. Huge difference. I mean, even I can see that without having to crunch any numbers. So before I wrap all of this up, you guys can count all the shots I took. That's as dirty as my lock gut. And I did not have to vent pick it. It's dirty. Didn't have any misfires, as opposed to when I shot that Swiss with all that obtrusive fouling. And that was even with Elephant 4F. Alright, I'm going to pull this back into the shade and wrap it up. 1, 2, 3. Alright guys, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but if you look at my front blade, you can see, I hope, how shiny and reflective of the sun that is. Let me go inside and I'll explain, so I can get out of the breeze here. Okay, before the battery dies, the reason why I wanted you to see that front sight is just simply because I typically start shooting at 10 o'clock in the morning, because at 10 o'clock in the morning that sun is just right that it hits off that front blade, so that I can pick up that front blade a whole lot better than normal. Now, I'm not making any excuses, but I started at 9:30 this morning with these first shots. After it got to be a little after 10, not much, then I could pick up that front blade a whole lot better. Now, like I've said in the past, my eyes are waning and I'm having a hard time, seeing the distance and my front sight and all of that in conjunction. But either way, if you were to overlap these 2 targets and put them both upright like this, it's truly not all that bad. We flip them around and go like this. Other than those couple of shots that I called, that, kind of embarrassing, it's really not all that bad for having the rod in and the rod out of the gun, but at the same time, shooting early on, not being able to pick up that front sight as easily as I could with that sun reflecting off that front blade. And that's why I like putting that little bit of a bevel on that front sight. Now, it doesn't always work out. Like when I'm hunting, you know, I'm not always anticipating the sun to being just perfect. But even if it's not just perfect, again, that would harvest game. Even at 1,700 and something feet per second. Now, ultimately, before I settle on cherry and alder, I'll have to thoroughly clean the gun and then rerun those first couple of shots with cherry to see if I can, you know, get a consistent number above 2,000 feet per second with 80 grain per weight. Not volume, but weight. And then once again, on my powder measure, it was right at that 90 grain mark. So anyhow, really I'm not all that impressed with cherry as far as the numbers are concerned, because they were really all over the place from 2083 to the lowest I got was 1658, and I redid that. So I mean, it's not all that consistent as it relates to the alder. The highest was 1777 and the lowest was 1714. So when I mentioned earlier buckthorn alder being the most consistent with a burn rate compared to what? Well, if you was to take a look at that target, I just measured that. That's 1 inch from center to center. And the numbers are very, very, as far as I'm concerned, consistent. And if I wanted to bump up the feet per second, instead of going 80 grains by weight, go 90 grains by weight. Maybe I should try that and see if I can get the same thing. So those are the numbers. Make of it what you will. I know from certain aspects my mind's made up, but you know, never will I tell you that alder is better than cherry or cherry is better than juniper or anything like that. You guys make up your own mind as to what's what. So anyhow, thanks for watching. I gotta go get out of this flannel shirt and I got a gun to clean. Thanks for watching, and everybody have a great day. Bye.